Hey guys, tonight we set sail into the unknown, boarding a small fishing boat that rocks gently in the harbor as twilight bleeds out of the sky. The waves glint like shards of shattered glass, and the air tastes of salt and promise until it doesn't. You probably won't survive this without learning a few hard truths about the sea, and that's exactly why you're here. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Share your location and local time in the comments so we can track this voyage in real time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shove off from the wharf under a sky smeared with dusky lavender, the shoreline receding as you steer toward deeper waters. The engine's hum is soothing a lullaby you don't question yet. You watch seagulls wheel over the boat's bow, their cries echoing around the empty docks. The deck beneath your boots feels firm and familiar. This is your routine, the same route you've charted dozens of times, from dawn's first light until dusk. You trawl nets for snapper, check your gear, enjoy the solitude punctuated only by gull calls and distant booms of container ships on the horizon. Tonight, though, there's an electric tension in the air, a subtle tremor that pricks your skin. You cast your first net with practiced grace eyes, scanning the surface for signs of fish. A plume of bioluminescent plankton glows faintly under the water's surface, as if the ocean itself is blinking at you. You lean over the rail, smiling at the ethereal glow. But then, almost imperceptibly, the water around your boat darkens, not from depth, but from movement, something massive shifting beneath the waves. You freeze, heart fluttering. The sound of the engine seems distant now, muffled by a sudden hush that smothers the night. You shrug off the unease and haul the net. It's promisingly heavy, brimming with flapping fish, but as you reel it in, the boat pitches forward. A cold wave slaps the stern with enough force to knock you off balance. Your flashlight arcs through the air, slicing a pale beam that dances across angry gray swells. You stumble, reach for a rail, and feel the deck lurch beneath your hand. The swell grows faster, steeper, the boat trembling like a leaf in a storm. You shout a warning into the wind, but your voice is swallowed by a roar building on the horizon. Squall you don't know yet, but instinct commands you to secure the nets and cut the engine. Your fingers fumble with wet line teeth, chattering, rain bursts from the sky without warning, hitting you like icy needles. The once gentle hum of the motor stutters, then grows chaotic as the prop fights a sudden surge. You twist the throttle to idle heart, hammering sweat mingling with rain on your brow. Your flashlight clatters to the deck, swiveling off. Darkness becomes absolute. You squint into the black, trying to read the sea's mood. A low rumble bellows from beneath the water, as if something gargantuan has awoken. You stagger toward the cabin hatch, but a wave taller than 10 men rises behind you, cresting with white foam. Time slows as that monstrous wall of water bears down unstoppable. You lunge for a handhold only to be hurled into chaos. Suddenly, you're airborne, twisting through the rain-lashed sky. The world flips. The boat's rail rattles against your ribs. You crash onto your back spine, snapping with impact, chest burning. A jagged crunch echoes in your skull. Water explodes over you, dragging you into the surf as the vessel capsizes above. You gasp, lungs screaming for air as the wave drags you into an underwater tunnel of foam and debris. Thrown like a rag doll, you crash against the hull's side, taste brine and rust. Salt stings every orifice while you fight against the current that drags you down. You wrestle with tangled fishing line shards of wood and metal flotsam that scrapes your flesh raw. Instinct screams surface, breathe. You kick upward, arms cleaving at the torrential wash. A burst of clarity hits as your head breaks the surface and you gulp a lungful of briny air, coughing until your vision clears. The moon, now high and cloud smeared, offers a pale witness to your plight. Your vessel is gone, swallowed by darkness, its lumber splintered hull sinking into the abyss. You drift amid scattered debris, a lone hatch cover, broken fishing rods, crates of supplies. Each piece is a potential lifeline. You seize a wooden crate, grip splintered edges, and haul yourself free of the water's pull. Your body shakes from shock and cold. Every breath tastes of salt and panic. As the rain loosens to a fine mist, you pull into a semi-upright position on the debris. Thunder rumbles in the distance, punctuating the emptiness of the open sea. Lightning illuminates foaming swells, flashes revealing your trembling arms and bloodied knees. The crate quivers beneath you, but it holds for now. You stretch your legs, testing each muscle, thinking you might have a chance. And so, in the pale, haunting glow of the moon, you begin your unplanned odyssey. The world has contracted to the size of that broken hatch and the endless expanse of Inca-colored water. All you can do is cling on and wait for the next wave. You swallow hard, bracing yourself. This is the moment the horizon vanished behind you, and you realize how small you really are. You cling to that battered crate as another wave barrels toward you, a living thing thrashing in its own rage. The rain has picked up fat droplets, merging into a wall of water that obscures the horizon. Your soaked shirt clings to you like a second skin, every breath a reminder of how cold the sea truly is. You hug the crate tighter, knuckles whitening on the splintered wood. The thunder above you isn't distant. It's the sky itself cracking open, and the lightning forks across the clouds with a brilliance that sears your retinas. A massive swell crests directly behind you, its peak folding forward with deafening fury. Time decelerates as you watch it come, a steel gray wave crowned with froth that dwarfs your fragile float. Instinct shouts duck, but your mind is frozen by the enormity of it. The wave crashes down, and you're engulfed in a torrent of ice and blur. You're batted about like a toy, the crate twisting beneath you. Your lungs burn when salt water floods your throat, and the world becomes a violent kaleidoscope of churning water, scattered debris, and the howl of the gale. When you finally break the surface, you're coughing violently, your ribs aching with each convulsion. You manage a gulp of frantic air before submerging again, this time holding your breath long enough to kick towards pocket of calmer water you spotted beneath the wave. Your boots scrape against something hard, another piece of wreckage. You kick free and latch onto an upturned beam, prying your numb limbs around it. The beam tilts and rolls you into an awkward cradle, but you're grateful for its buoyancy. A rusted cooking pot floats nearby. You snatch it up and press it to your chest, teeth chattering uncontrollably. The storm's roar is relentless now, hammering at your ears with an almost joyous ferocity. You taste blood as the wind whips salt into your split lip and your vision doubles. A flash of lightning reveals the vastness of your solitude. No land, no ship, only the inky void, punctuated by ragged whitecaps. You remember when you thought the sea was just another job, a predictable ecosystem you could master. Now it's a monstrous adversary lording over you with indifferent cruelty. You anchor yourself to the beam and scan the turbulent expanse for other debris, more air pockets to breathe in, more flotsam to build a raft later. Your hands slick with seawater and grime fumble for anything useful. A jagged shard of fiberglass slashes through the rain's veil, and you snatch it, risking a cut for the possibility of fashioning a more secure grip. Pain flares red and then dulls as your adrenaline surges. Another wave thrusts you skyward, then plunges you deeper than before. Water pressure squeezes your chest. You can taste the cold prickle of hypothermia creeping in. You force yourself to kick upward, mind fixated on one singular goal: air. When you burst through the surface again, you grab a gulp of storm-bitter air and scream though the wind swallows your cry. Your throat rebels, but you grit your teeth and inhale again. This time, you search for a rhythm, one breath at the crest, one breath at the trough. It's the only thing keeping you tethered to life. Gradually, the storm's fury begins to drain some of its intensity. The rain eases to a torrential drizzle, and the gusts lose a fraction of their force. You cling to your beam and crate arms trembling so violently that your makeshift raft quivers beneath you. A stray fishing rod swings by line, tangled around your leg. You yank it free, careful not to jerk the rusty hook into your flesh. You consider that rod a lifeline, a means to catch dinner in this endless soup. But for now, you can't spare the energy. Lightning forks one last time, illuminating the scene in a surreal wash of silver. The churning waves look almost peaceful for an instant, like liquid mountains rolling endlessly. And then the thunder arrives, a bone-rumbling clap that echoes for miles. You press your palms into your eyes, warding off the afterimage, and then focus on your situation. You're alive, shockingly, miraculously alive. You're cold, bleeding, and alone, but you're alive. As the edge of the storm begins to pass, you realize the real fight has just begun. You cradle your pieces of debris, shivering violently, and cast your gaze toward that unbroken horizon. There is no coast in sight, no rescue ship on the edge of view. The only promise is the endless ocean and the next wave, and you steel yourself to meet it. If you can survive the storm, perhaps you can survive the calm, though you suspect the calm may be even more treacherous for your mind. Your chest heaves with ragged breaths. You press your cheek against the wood beam, tasting salt and iron and fear. In the distance, lightning still cracks intermittently, but the thunder's bass thrum has eased. The waves, though still formidable, no longer tower like monstrous walls. They roll in steady succession, almost rhythmic, an invitation to find a pulse of your own amid their motion. You flex your fingers around the beam, testing its strength. It holds. You test your weight distribution on the crate. It shifts, but doesn't capsize. Small victories, to be sure. As you settle into a trembling vigil, you promise yourself, I will not go under. I will not surrender. You tighten your grip, bracing for the next onslaught, determined to endure. The storm may have broken you, but it did not defeat you. You hang on for dear life as the sea's remnants swirl around you, each wave a potential executioner. The splintered hatch, jagged and waterlogged, is your only refuge amid the frenzy. Its warped metal frame twists under your weight, but you cling to it anyway, pressing your soaked palms into the rusted edges. Every nerve in your body screams to let go, to succumb to the black water, but some stubborn spark inside you refuses to die. You grip tighter fingernails, biting into corroded steel, and tell yourself that this is your lifeline. Your legs dangle in the choppy surf, calf muscles trembling like tense springs. Salt water burns everywhere. It can reach eyelids open, cuts sunburned shoulders. You pop one eye open to scan the horizon for anything resembling calm, but the ocean is a roiling mass of whitecaps and inky troughs. A stray gust of wind rocks the hatch, sending you off balance. You catch yourself with a gasp, sliding partly off the metal before hauling your heavy body back up. Your shirt is shredded, a tattered flag of survival, and the salt crust on your skin feels like tacky armor. Every breath is a battle. You inhale through a split lip, filling your lungs with brine and the faint tang of rust. Your chest tightens from shock and hypothermia, but you will yourself to take another breath. Memories flash your cousin's laugh when you first learned to swim, the taste of pink lemonade on a hot afternoon, the sting of that experimental crocodile dung sunscreen you tried last year for laughs. You grip the hatch's rim and whisper to yourself, not now, not ever. Clinging to this piece of wreckage has become your defiance. If the sea wants to take you, it will have to pry that hatch from your cold, dead hands. You survey your meager collection of debris clustered around the hatch, a broken oar, fragments of fiberglass, a waterlogged life jacket with its inflation mechanism ripped away. You experiment with shifting your weight, letting your legs hook under a bent bracket for extra hold. It hurts your ribs. Protest with every thoughtful movement, but the trade-off is worth it. Your makeshift cradle of flotsam is unstable, but it is better than floating free in the abyss. You close your eyes against the spray, letting the rhythmic roll of the hatch beneath you become a primitive lullaby. The storm has passed, but the sea still threatens. In the absence of rain, moonlight pierces the gaps in the clouds, casting stark silver patterns on the waves. You see a school of jellyfish drifting below their pulsating bells, glowing faintly like lanterns in the dark. Your mind drifts to a comforting thought. At least they won't sting you here, at least not until you drift closer. The odd reassurance makes you ache for warmth, for human touch. A low growl emanates from your stomach, an unwelcome reminder that hunger is as relentless as thirst. You scan the debris again, considering how to fashion a scraper from a shard of fiberglass, to extract seawater from a cracked thermos and filter it through fabric from your shirt. You're too weak to attempt that now, but planning it gives you purpose. Purpose steadies you. You imagine yourself at dawn, the ocean calm your makeshift raft, patched with sailcloth and spare rope. Maybe the sea will be merciful then. A sudden swell lifts the hatch, and you're flung onto your side, your body scraping against the sharp rim. Pain lances through your flesh, but you suppress the gasp. You roll onto your back, orient yourself to the sky, and force your limbs back into position. The water around you churns, pulling at your heels, but you reflexively hook your bootlaces through a corroded eyelet and press your chest into the hatch. You clamp your arms down hard, nails cracking against rust. Time loses meaning. Minutes stretch into hours, or maybe only seconds, but each wave that crashes over you is an eternity of whitewater torture. You learn to shut out the roar, focusing instead on the microcosm of your situation, your palms sliding on metal, your breath rasping your heartbeat, hammering in your ears. You wonder if relief will come, or if the next wave is the one that finally breaks your resolve. Dark thoughts creep in. You imagine drifting into an endless void, your body left behind by chance and indifference. But just as those whispers grow loudest, you recall something your grandmother once told you after you scraped your knee as a child. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. It's silly nonsense for a scraped knee, but in this moment, it's a lifeline. You hunch your shoulders, pressing further into the hatch, and grit your teeth. Be stronger than the sea, you command yourself. Another colossal swell approaches from your left, churning a wall of steel gray water that eclipses everything. Your head snaps toward it. You hunker down, chin to chest, arms braced. The wave lifts you like a cradle, then dumps you into a trough. You emerge shaking water lining your eyelashes like glass beads. When you surface, you find your grip has been loosened. The hatch has shifted. The deck plate is now angled, and you're scrabbling to find purchase on its slick surface. You reach for the oar fragment, jamming it between two metal flanges to wedge the hatch back into a safer angle. Your fingers fumble bloodied, but finally the oar locks in. The hatch shudders less under your weight. You lean into it and exhale a breath you didn't even know you were holding. The physical pain from your ribs and cracked knuckles is nothing compared to the mental terror that lurked moments ago. As dawn's first pale light unfurls across the horizon, the waves subside into rhythmic swells. You lift your head, tasting the dawn breeze, heavy with salt and cold. You close your eyes and inhale deeply, letting the crisp air fill your lungs. For a brief moment, you forget the pain, the hunger, the sky's endless gray expanse. You are simply you alive, but survival demands vigilance. You open your eyes and set to work. You untangle your legs from the oar lash and stretch your cramped calves. You gather loose fragments of line and bits of rope from the life jacket. Each small task feels monumental, but you force your mind away from the dark edges that beckon. You whisper to yourself one breath, one moment at a time. Above you, a lone gull wheels, perhaps lost as you are. It cries a bright note in the muted dawn. You watch it drift out of sight, wishing you could follow. Yet, as you settle into a wary rhythm, breathe, brace, plan, you recognize a quiet truth. In this vast expanse, only your own determination anchors you. The splintered hatch may bend and groan, but as long as you hold on, you hold your life. You settle deeper into the hatch's cradle and let your eyes drift over the scattered flotsam, a grim treasure map where every piece of debris is a potential lifeline. The dawn's pale light reveals a larger wooden crate bobbing nearby, its metal straps still intact. It's heavier than the others, but you know that weight could mean supplies. Your ribs protest, but you slide your body off the hatch and push through the water toward it, limbs trembling like wet noodles. You wrap your arms around the crate's edges and heave muscles screaming in protest as you drag it close enough to reach. Leaning against your makeshift raft, you brace one knee on the broken hatch to steady yourself. Foam licks the crate's corners with each gentle swell, but the straps remain firm. You fumble for a screwdriver you'd fashioned from a shard of fiberglass, wedging its thin edge under one of the metal bands. With a grunt, you pry it upward, feeling the band give way with a reluctant creak. The crate lid hisses as air rushes in a hiss you embrace like a whisper of hope. You tug the strap free and rip back the weathered wooden planks. Your heart knocks against your ribs as you peer inside. First, you spot a cluster of sealed glass bottles, their labels mostly intact fresh water. You fish one out, wipe the grime with the tail of your shirt, and twist off the cap. The water inside is clouded but drinkable. You bring it to your lips in one desperate gulp, letting liquid coolness soothe your scorched throat. You savor each drop as it washes down your parched esophagus, closing your eyes in gratitude. The second bottle you twist open more carefully, saving half for later against your better instincts. You ration it into your cracked metal pot. Beneath the bottles, you uncover a canvas bag bulging with hardtack biscuits. They're heavy and stale, but carbohydrates are precious. You jam one into your mouth, chewing slowly to avoid burning your cracked gums. The biscuit disintegrates into grainy crumbs, and each swallow feels like victory. You press the canvas bag against your chest, the rough fabric warm from your body heat. Hunger still gnaws at you, but the biscuit's remnants swell in your stomach, distracting the ache. Your fingers delve deeper and brush against cold metal, a small mirror, cracked but reflective. You lift it and angle it toward the rising sun. Light flares from the mirror's surface and dances across the waves. You clutch it to your chest, the brilliance almost blinding, and tuck it into your shirt pocket. A signal mirror might be useless amid the endless ocean, but if you ever spot a plane or distant ship, it could draw their attention. Hope flickers. Under the mirror, you find a gas-fired flare pen, rusted yet intact. You shake it, the contents slosh inside. You test the striker wheel against a piece of metal shrapnel and sparks flicker. It works. You press the striker again and marvel as a tiny flame ignites peaks at the tip, then douses as the flame retardant cap closes. Your pulse hammers you. Tuck the flare into a secure corner of the crate, careful not to ignite it accidentally. Last, you retrieve a small jerry can with a harness still looped around its neck. The metal is pitted, but unbreached. You lift it, guessing it holds fuel diesel, wrenched from the boat's tanks when it's submerged. A liquid so precious it could power a heater if you ever construct one. You slide it into the crate alongside the water biscuit's mirror and flare feeling a momentary triumph. You pause, chest heaving, as the hatch rocks beneath you. You survey your haul water for days' measly calories to stabilize your strength, a mirror for signaling a flare for emergencies, and fuel for who knows what. Each item is a lifeline woven into a fragile tapestry of survival. You lean your head back, letting a stray beam of sunlight warm your face. For the first time in what feels like years, you feel a surge of optimism. Still gathering supplies is only half the battle. You need a secure way to carry them and protect them from the sea's thieving grip. You lash the crate to your hatch with bits of fishing line you scavenged earlier, knotting it tight around the ore fragment, acting as a brace. The crate wobbles at first, but then it settles firmly against the hatch's metal frame. You pat it as if thanking an ally before tucking your legs back beneath you. You pause to consider what to tackle next, desalinating seawater or fashioning a rain collector. Your mind races through possibilities. The torn sail you lashed overhead is tattered but serviceable. You could rig a funnel with it. For now, you focus on the essentials, securing your new crate and boosting your morale. You crack open another hardtack biscuit and let it crumble in your mouth. The grains graze your teeth like chalk, but they settle in your stomach, a reminder that you've taken back some control. You sip more water, careful not to gulp too rapidly and risk cramps. Your fingers dance over the contents of the crate, memorizing each item's shape and position. You'll need to know where everything is in your sleep deprived haze. A gentle swell lifts your raft, and you catch a flash of silver far off in the distance, a sliver of sunlight on a wave's crest. It could be debris reflecting the dawn, or it could be something else. You lean forward, peering hard, but the shape dissolves into whitecaps. You tell yourself not to get carried away, but your heart flutters at the possibility of other survivors or a nearby vessel. Setting your gaze back on the crate, you draw a slow, steadying breath. The wave's rhythm feels less menacing, now almost comforting like a heartbeat. You clasp your hands over your knees and murmur, "This is mine, mine to protect, mine to use." You catch sight of your reflection in the signal mirror wedged in your shirt, sunken eyes circled with dark, salt streaked skin, but determination burning in your gaze. You pack the crate's interior tighter, ensuring nothing shifts if a rogue wave hits. You wedge the flare and mirror into corners, press the water bottles flat against one side, and tuck the biscuits into a dry spot beneath the lid's lip. Then, with a final tug on the line, securing the crate, you lean back and allow the crate to cradle you both. You glance skyward. Clouds still linger, but their darkest depths have broken and drifted east. The storm that felled you is dissolving into memory. A shaft of sunlight pierces the cloud cover, striking the water in a shimmering column. It feels like an invitation proof that this endless ocean isn't just a grave, but could also be a path home. Your body aches, but your mind is sharper. The sea may test you again, but you've proven you can outsmart it, at least for now. You pat the hatch and the crate like old friends, then brace yourself against the next swell. You are armed with water food tools and hope. Now you must decide your next move. Repair the solar, still fashion a fishing spear, or map the sun's path to determine direction. Each choice will shape the days ahead. You lean your shoulder against the hatch and close your eyes, savoring the taste of survival. Your heart pounds with cautious optimism. The crate strapped securely is a small fortress against the sea's indifference. You whisper to the dawn, "Let's keep going," and open your eyes to the endless blue around you. You wake with a start to the taste of salt still heavy on your lips and the jerry can's cold bulk pressing into your side. Dawn has ripened into a bleached, blistering sun that glares down without mercy. You pat your pockets and find the signal mirror safe, the flare snug, and half a bottle of water left. Your stomach growls, but your focus is on the water and how little of it remains. You sit up carefully, flexing muscles stiff from cramps, and tilt the jerry can to test its weight. It sloshes with diesel useless for quenching thirst. Only the two bottles hold potable water, and together they grant you less than a liter. Your heart sinks. You press your palm against the wooden crate, steadying yourself as the raft rocks. Sweat beads on your forehead, mixing with salt and grime. The sun's heat is a predator seeking out every pore to draw out moisture. You unscrew the remaining bottle's cap and pour a tiny sip into your mouth, letting the coolness trickle down your throat. It's hardly enough to last another hour, much less the day. You lower the bottle, knowing you must ration it 2 sips at a time. Heat cranks up the wavelength of the ocean's glare, making the waves look like liquid mercury. You lift the mirror and angle it toward the sun, but the glare off the water is blinding. The mirror's reflection is useless in these conditions, and you lower it quickly. Instead, you fish out a scrap of fabric from your shirt knot the corners and tie it between the oar brace and hatch rim. You've seen desert nomads use cloth to filter water. Maybe you can capture dew at night, but daytime offers no solace. You tie the cloth tight, forming a tiny sling. Your arms tremble as you pour the last few drops of water over the cloth, letting them seep through and pool in the jerry can's mouth. Each drop is agony in slow motion, but precious. You tilt the jerry can to catch the filtered water, collecting maybe a teaspoon's worth. You lick your finger as you wipe the rim, savoring that tiny salvage. Hunger and thirst together gnaw at you, a bitter duo that strips hope to bone. You lean back, tension radiating through every muscle as you scan the horizon. Nothing moves but the waves, an endless lullaby turned tormented refrain. You recall stories of survivors who used wool socks to capture dew, but your shirt's fabric is too coarse for micro droplets. Still, you're determined. You fold the cloth into a shallow scoop, lower it into the jerry can, and pray for a breeze to stir condensation. Even a few drops could mean another breath. Minutes tick by with agonizing slowness. Beads of sweat roll down your skull and drip into your eyes, salt burning like acid. You wipe at your face, smearing grit, and close your eyes. Only through closed lids can you momentarily escape the sun's lash. When you open them, you see the horizon shiver in heat, an apparition that makes you wonder if you're hallucinating a distant shoreline. Your throat has gone raw from thirst, each swallow, a needle, shoot through your neck. You force down another piece of hardtack, letting crumbs grind against the back of your tongue, hoping the morsels will quench hunger and coax saliva. It doesn't work. Instead, the biscuit disintegrates into a dry paste that sticks to your throat. You choke, coughing, until you sputter seawater. Your chest tightens, and you gasp for a gulp of the precious filtered dribble in the jerry can. You lift your head and sound a low groan of desperation that gets lost in the wind. You force yourself to stand slowly, carefully, ribs protesting each move. You cup the jerry can in your arms and press your cheek to its cold metal. Your reflection is blurred by sweat and salt, but you recognize the gaunt set of your jaw. You whisper to yourself, think, just think. You consider your options, fashioning a solar still collecting rainwater, fishing for hydration rich prey like squid. The last seems fanciful, you lack the gear and strength. Rain could come, but the forecast sky is spotless. Solar still now, there's a plan. You scour your flotsam for components. The life jacket's foam is gone, but the nylon straps remain. The torn sail above could serve as a condensation surface. You drag your fingertips along the hatch's edge, finding a rusty nail embedded in a seam. You pry it loose with the mirror's corner, careful not to shatter it. You fish out the nail and press it into the sail's hem, stitching a small square of nylon. You tie fishing line around each corner of the sail patch, forming a loose pouch beneath your crate. This pouch will catch drips. The jerry can sits below as the collection vessel. Design in place, you position the nylon patch to capture stray spray when waves wash over the raft. The sail slumps in the sun, and heat will drive moisture through the fabric to condense on the cooler underside of the hatch above if you can create enough temperature differential. It's rudimentary, but it's all you have. You pause to admire your handiwork, chest heaving from exertion and anxiety. You settle back on the hatch, eyes closing, as you listen to the waves slap the raft's edges. You wait for proof that your contraption works, a solitary drip, a condensation bead sliding down the sail into the jerry can. You stare at the pouch, willing it to perform. A breeze picks up, and you feel drafts teasing the edges of the nylon, but nothing pools yet. Doubt gnaws again, but you push it aside. Patience may be your only currency now. Your lips crack, and you palm your mouth, pulling away crusted skin. The pain startles you, but you force yourself to focus on the setup. The sun is at its zenith. Peak heat will press moisture out of the air. You glance at your water bottles, one nearly empty, the other reserved for emergencies. The thought of needing that second bottle keeps you alert. A sudden shadow crosses the sail patch, and you flinch. A wave surges higher, spraying over the raft. The nylon pouch shakes as droplets crash onto it, and you hold your breath. A single bead glimmers on the fabric's underside. Gravity beckons, and it slides along a seam to the pouch's corner. You lean forward. The bead collects against the corner's tip and falls plop into the jerry can. You catch it in your mind before it lands. Another drip follows, and then another. Each drop is a victory, a micro promise of survival. You cup your hands under the jerry can's spout and lift it to catch the drips. After 10 long minutes, you collect a teaspoon's worth of water, warm, faintly salty, yet life-saving. You pour it into your mouth, letting it pool on your tongue before swallowing. The warmth soothes the rawness of your throat, and you close your eyes, savoring each molecule. Encouragement surges through you, but you know this trick yields only so much. You tally in your mind, at this rate, you could gather perhaps 100 milliliters by nightfall, barely enough to stave off dehydration, but enough to keep going. You sit up straighter, resolve hardening. Dehydration will come in stages first, weakness, then delirium. You plan to beat each stage back. You tug at the sail patch, repositioning it for optimal drip. You secure extra line to keep the pouch taut. You inspect every knot, every seam, ensuring no leaks. You realize this makeshift still is also a symbol, your refusal to be a passive castaway. You are the architect of your own chance. The sun, once your enemy, has become your tool. As noon light bleaches the waves to shining silver, you sip another precious drip. You swallow the dry biscuit crumbs lingering in your throat. Hunger and thirst still howl, but you have hope, small, dripping hope. You rest back against the hatch, watching the sunlight spark on each droplet as it slides toward survival. You wake to a searing heat that feels as if the sun itself has pressed its face against yours. Your makeshift shelter, a tattered piece of sail rigged above you, offers scant relief. The nylon flaps droop limp from salt and exhaustion, catching only feeble patches of shade that drift across the raft like ghostly umbrellas. Every inch of your skin, from scalp to ankle, pulses with sting of sunburn that you know will blister. You lean forward and palm the top of your head, feeling heat radiate through your fingertips. It's as though your sunburn is alive, reacting to your touch. You shift testing the sails as support straps and decide the sail must be repositioned. Hot metal lines the hatch's rim. You wrap a scrap of cloth around your hand, painfully aware that every move rubs salt into raw flesh. With a grunt, you climb to a crouch, one knee braced on the hatch, and tug on the sail's corner. It snags on a frayed patch, and you bite back a curse. Pain blossoms across your shoulder as salt-crusted fibers scrape raw skin. You shake out the sail flap, trying to catch a breeze that might lift it higher. A gust finally catches the patch, snapping your makeshift canopy into a slanted position that casts a longer shadow. You settle beneath the cooler spot and brace your elbows on your knees. Your shirt, worn thin and torn, offers almost no barrier. You press your palm to your sun-cracked cheek, inhaling the pungent tang of salt and charred skin. Each breath is an exercise in restraint. Breathe shallowly, or risk inhaling the hot, dusty air that scorches your lungs. You focus on the nearest wave's lullaby, convinced that if you listen closely, you can feel the ocean's pulse syncing with your own. Thirst gnaws at you with new ferocity under the blistering canopy. You reach behind you for the jerry can. The filtered water tastes warmer now, but it still soothes your parched throat. You pour a small sip, letting it linger on your tongue before swallowing. You wipe your lips on the back of your hand and wince as salt stings. Still, the water's coolness is a salve, a reminder that life exists beyond this inferno. You roll your shoulders, cracking ribs that ache in protest. Each movement sends bolt-like pain through your chest, but you know immobility invites cramps. Your gaze drifts to the horizon, where the sun hangs mercilessly overhead, a white hot beacon. You remember how back on shore, you once sat under a sun lamp for a few minutes. Now you burn without choice for hours on end. The ocean's breeze offers only a hollow promise of coolness. It warms as it passes over sun scorched flesh. You decide to improvise further protection. The life jacket's straps dangle uselessly against your thigh. You cut them free with your shard knife. Salt has dulled its edge, but it still slices cloth. You tear strips of fabric and tie them into headbands and wristbands, soaking them with seawater to accelerate evaporative cooling. You tie one across your forehead, another around your neck, and wrap your wrists. The wet fabric clings to your skin, offering fleeting refreshment as moisture evaporates. It's a temporary reprieve, but it keeps you from succumbing to heat stroke. You stand and adjust the sail canopy again this time, rigging an extra support line between the oar brace and a hatch bolt to raise the highest point. The new angle casts a broader shadow, protecting more of your torso. You drop to your knees in the shade and press your back against the hatch's cooler metal surface, feeling the prick of heat dull. You close your eyes and breathe in the faint scent of ocean spray mixed with singed fabric. Despite your efforts, the sun's glare is relentless. You can't help but think about how vulnerable you are exposed to the elements, with no rescue in sight. The thought churns your stomach, but you tamp down panic. You are resourceful. You are resilient. You are still here. You open your eyes and focus on what matters, conserving energy and minimizing exposure. You retrieve the mirror and hold it in the shade for a moment, warming its back so it won't reflect incoming rays directly into your eyes. Then you angle it upward, signaling to the sky as a gesture of defiance. The mirror catches the sun's light and sends a bright flash into the upper clouds. Maybe a plane sees it, maybe a bird, but mostly it reminds you of your purpose, to be seen, to be found. Your skin prickles with sun poison as the hours drag on. You dab aloe from your water bottle's labels. Only a thin backing remains, but you scrape the gel-like residue into your palm and smear it on tender skin. The relief is immediate but short-lived. Sweat dissolves the gel, mixing with salt and leaving stinging tracks down your shoulders. You grit your teeth and return the bottle to its place, realizing that comfort will always come in brief, excruciating flashes. You lie back, propping your head on the crate, and let the waves' rhythm cradle you. Your breath settles into a slow cadence. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, matching the gentle swing of wood and metal. You close your eyes and recite a mantra: just survive the sun, survive the day. The sea's surface glitters around you, a sheet of molten silver that dazzles and taunts. You resist the urge to avert your eyes. To acknowledge the danger is to wrestle with despair, but you steel yourself instead. By midday, your strips of wet cloth have dried through twice. You dunk them again in the filtered water and rewrap each bandage, savoring the chill as it creeps back onto your skin. Each rewrapping is a ritual. You bind yourself to survival, linking piece of cloth to piece of willpower. The sun dips marginally westward, elongating your shadow, a small but hopeful sign that you will survive this scorching trial. Fatigue beckons, but you can't drift into unconsciousness under this sun. You spot a small school of fish skirting the raft's shadow and use the fishing rod to hook a snapper, thin wriggling still warm from the depths. You dispatch it quickly, rinse it with seawater in your pot, and fry it on a tiny alcohol burner you fashioned from the jerry can's residue. The small flame licks the fish's flesh, crisping skin that you devour with ravenous hunger. It's meager, but it nourishes both body and spirit. As the sun slides toward afternoon, the pain of sunburn evolves into a deep, throbbing ache, and the shadow canopy offers more consistent shade. You sit cross legged on the crate, eating slowly, feeling nourishment seep into aching limbs. You sip water between bites, managing portions so they last. You press your palm to your wristband and feel the damp beat against scorched skin, a reminder that you are alive and that this day at least you have tamed the sun's worst. You lean against the patched sail, surveying the vast blue around you. You cannot outrun this sun, but you can outlast it, weaving shade and water into fleeting oases of relief. As the afternoon wears on and the sun's arc declines, you tie off the final knot on your improved canopy. With each knot, you weave another thread of hope. You settle in for the long, hot afternoon, aware that each minute survived under this blistering sun brings you closer to evening's cooler promise. You may be sunburned, dehydrated, and exhausted, but you are triumphant. The sun rages, and yet you endure. You drift on the gentle swell, the sun's heat finally waning into a cooler glow, but your mind races hotter than ever. The monotony of ocean and sky has begun to fracture your thoughts. At first, it's subtle, a soft whisper carried on the breeze that you're not sure is real. You pause mid breath, eyes narrowed against the salt hazed horizon, and strain to hear it again. There, a faint trill of laughter, maybe the lilting voice of someone calling your name. You spin toward the sound, heart pounding, but the waves answer with silence. You shake your head hard, flicking spray from your hair. The world tilts, and for a moment you glimpse land, a lush shoreline, just beyond the next swell-dense trees rustling at the water's edge. You blink twice, and it vanishes into empty blue. Your gut clenches. You wonder if hunger and dehydration have already invaded your senses, or if the sea itself toys with you. You grip the hatch's edge, knuckles whitening, and try to anchor yourself in reality. Your reflection in the mirror fragment shows sunken eyes rimmed in salt pupils, pinned like a cornered animal's. You stare at yourself, willing the image to steady. You're fine, you whisper, voice rough as coral, but your own words tremble. You run a hand through your hair, tasting iron and despair on your fingertips. The memory of fresh water, clear, cold, life-giving, feels like a dream. You close your eyes to block out the horizon's shifting shapes and focus on the creaking of the hatch beneath your shoulder. A breeze picks up, carrying what sounds like chanting. You sit up, scanning in circles. The sky darkens with gathering clouds, a curtain of gray framing the edges of the world. The chant grows louder, rhythmic, and distant, like monks in a hidden temple. Your pulse skips. You swivel, almost falling off your perch, and spot nothing but endless waves. You press your hands over your ears, but the chant echoes inside your skull. You can almost make out words. Come home, come home. The repetition terrifies you. It feels too deliberate to be an illusion. Panic coaxes at the edge of your mind, but you force a deep breath. Inhale, hold, exhale. You count each syllable of your own mantra. Hold on, find the truth. You open your eyes and peer at each wave's curl, searching for concrete detail. A school of flying fish arcs above the water in a silver chorus that snaps your attention back. Their fleeting presence reminds you that biological life still thrives. You exhale a shaky breath, letting relief replace dread. Night approaches, and the sky's gray shift to bruised purple. The ocean glints beneath the gathering gloom. You've learned the value of night as refuge from the sun's burn, but darkness brings its own specters. You secure your makeshift canopy lower to shield against dew, then settle against the hatch with the mirror in hand. You swing its reflective surface, lazily catching the last rays of light and sending scattered beams across the waves, an act of defiance against isolation. As stars emerge, a new hallucination takes shape. Constellations, rearrange themselves into messages. The Great Bear's stars realign into the shape of your childhood dog, barking its silent silhouette across the heavens. You blink until tears sting your cheeks. The sky ripples like disturbed water, then resets to familiar patterns. You feel foolish, ashamed. Still, tears start more from relief than humiliation. You're human, after all, not a stone drifting at sea. Your shoulders slump, and you let the mirror drop, catching its dull thud. You climb onto the crate to sit higher, knees drawn to your chest. You peer into the darkening distance for that phantom shoreline, that monastery of chanting. Nothing. The ocean remains obstinate and blank. You press your forehead to your knees and rock gently, the raft's motion lulling you toward sleep. But sleep threatens delirium, a plunge you cannot afford. You fight it, swinging your legs off the crate to dangle in the cool water, wiggling toes for sensation. The chanting returns softer now, like an echo inside your skull. You lift your head, glaring into the still open sea. The waves lap quietly, murmuring, as if sharing secrets you cannot decipher. You shiver not from cold, but from the uncanny intimacy of that sound. You clamp your hand over your mouth to stifle a sob. Get a grip, you murmur. You reach into the crate and retrieve the jerry can, rattling it beside your ear. The liquid sloshes realistically, grounding you in a tangible world. It reminds you that you still have resources, still have a plan. You take a slow sip of water. The coolness spreads through your chest, steadying your pulse. You tuck the jerry can beside you and lift your shirt's torn hem to wipe your brow. Your fingers come away sticky with sweat and salt. You spit and wipe again. Motion so mundane feels miraculous here. You close your eyes and focus on the symphony of real sounds, water lapping, woodwind through rigging your own breath. You tune out the phantom voices and train your senses on the authentic. Minutes pass, each a battle won against the mind's betrayals. As darkness deepens, the horizon's edge softens into a seamless curve of shadow. You consider lighting the flare pen just enough to reassure yourself that flame is within your command, that you can summon light at will. but you resist a flare at sea, draws attention. Yes, but it also reveals your position to hungry sharks in pitch black depths. Not yet. Keep your flair for true rescue. Instead, you reach for the gas burner you built from the jerry can residue. You scrape the bottom of the canister onto a scrap of metal, ignite it with the flare pen's striker, and watch as a tiny orange flame wavers to life. Cold night air nips at your skin, and you bring your hands close absently, warming your palms. The flame's heat feels like a promise, an ember of survival flickering in the vast darkness. It's nearly sunset time for your solar still to work overnight. You pour a bit of seawater into the sail pouch, draping the nylon so that dew might condense and drip. The cooker's warmth should help vaporize water for condensation, but the night's cool air may counteract it. You watch the pouch's seams, willing more moisture to slip through. You sip more filtered liquid, careful to leave half a teaspoon for later. Your mind flutters between hopes and fears. What if rescue never comes? What if you drift forever? Your story etched into salt and memory. You push the thought away. There's no benefit in despair. You clip the fishing line to a hook, bait it with a scrap of fish skin, and lower it into the dark water. The motion distracts you, focusing your hands, steadying your breathing. You'll fish through the night, rotating between tending lines and monitoring your still. As twilight surrenders to deep blue and stars ignite above you, curl into a semi-fetal position on the hatch arms wrapped around your knees. You tuck your chin and close your eyes, determined to rest, but not surrender. The chanting has faded to memory. The mirages have melted back into reality. You are firmly anchored to your raft, to your body, to your will. You drift between wakefulness and dreams, the gentle flame and salty breeze lulling you into a fragile sleep. Even as exhaustion threatens, you clamp one hand around the hatch and anchor to consciousness. You promise yourself that you will awaken before the moon sets, that you will greet dawn with renewed purpose. You whisper into the night, I see you, I hear you, I'm still here. Above you, the Southern Cross stands steady, its stars unblinking. In the cratered quiet of the open sea, you find a solitary comfort. You may be alone, but you remain alive is your mind, your final horizon to cross. You wake to a sky mottled with thin clouds, the pale dawn light filtering through like a hesitant hope. Your limbs ache, and you cradle the jerry can against your ribs, feeling its reassuring weight. Today marks your 42nd day adrift, a stretch of time that feels both endless and condensed, each sunrise a victory, each sunset a trial. You sit up and cradle your knees, letting the raft's gentle sway rock your thoughts. Memories surface unbidden, your partner's laughter as you returned home from midday errands, the way their eyes lit when you presented fresh caught fish. You can almost taste the home cooked meal. You never ate breakfast this morning. You close your eyes and picture their face, soft, familiar, convinced you were safe. You can almost hear their voice, calling your name, a warm echo that threads through your chest. The memory buoys you briefly, a lifeline thrown across the distance. You open your eyes and scan the horizon, half expecting to see your childhood home perched on a rocky shore. Instead, there is only the unbroken curve of sea and sky. In that instant, the void yawns before you, and your breath catches. You clutch the hatch's edge as a wave nudges the raft, and the warmth in your chest shatters into ice. A hollow dread coils through your stomach. What if you'll never feel those arms again? Your heart rattles like a loose bolt. You press your palms against the metal hatch, let its cool surface ground you. Memories of shoreside strolls through pine trees fade as the salt stings your eyes. You spin the signal mirror in your hand, catching a shaft of sunlight that glints across the water. You force your gaze to remain outward, refusing to sink into despair. But grief is insidious. It seeps through every crack. You take a shaky breath and lean back on the crate, sweeping damp hair from your eyes. You clutch your shirt, a remnant of home, once pressed and bright, now salt stained and torn, and press your cheek to its fabric. You imagine the feel of that fabric against warm skin, the softness you took for granted. You bite your lip to keep from crying tears making with brine on your cheeks. Yet even as despair knocks a quiet resolve clenches your heart, you recall a promise you made before leaving the vow to return. That vow echoes through you like a drumbeat. You wrench your eyes away from the missing shoreline and focus on the tasks at hand. Survival demands action. You tuck the mirror into its spot in the crate and pick up the fishing rod. The line is taut. A small fish has taken your bait. You reel it in with practiced movements, feeling the subtle resistance in your fingertips. When you bring the silver fish aboard its scales, flash like memories you can't hold. You dispatch it swiftly, rinse it in seawater, and prepare it over your tiny burner. The familiar ritual steadies your mind. The fish's flesh, crackling as it sears, reminds you of backyard cookouts, friends, crowded around the grill. You eat slowly, savoring the flavor that is both foreign and comforting. Protein fills you, pushing the ache in your stomach aside. You sip water, rinsing away the taste of salt and grief. As you finish, you fold your legs beneath you and gaze at the open ocean. The memory of loved ones still hovers, but you cling to your promise you will return. Your gaze drifts upward to the clouds' shifting shapes that tease faint patterns, wings, faces, hands reaching out. You lean forward and whisper to them, "Show me the way." The clouds shift again, a dark band arcing on the horizon that could be rain or land. Your pulse quickens. Is that a distant squall or the outline of a shoreline? You sit bolt upright, scanning for detail, cliffs, trees, a dock. The band moves. No, it's a storm line drifting eastward. Your shoulders slump. Even storms that brought you terror now stir a tingle of excitement. Anything is better than this unending sameness. You stand and adjust your sail canopy, angling it to catch more wind. A stronger breeze might push you toward that band or away from it. You secure the straps and brace yourself against the hatch. A sudden jolt rocks the raft as a wave smacks its side. The crate shifts and you sidestep to brace it. Salt spray stings your eyes, washing away tears and salt. You grab the mirror and flick it toward that gray band, hoping to catch attention. You wiggle the crate in small arcs, trying to create blinking flashes that might register against the storm's gloom. You count each flash 1, 2, 3, until you can no longer hold your arm aloft. Your chest heaves, the adrenaline spikes, sharpening your senses. You listen to the wind's pitch, figure out the storm's direction. It's moving toward you. Maybe you can harness its gale. But storms at sea are fickle. You scan back to your fishing rod and notice the line phrase from saltware. You untangle it and splice a length of spare rope as reinforcement. Each knot you tie feels like weaving another strand of hope into your craft. You step back surveying your raft's ensemble hatch crate sail lines. Everything has a purpose, every knot a memory of effort. You murmur, let's face that storm and grip the hatch's rim. You push off from the crate and lift your feet free of entanglements. You step onto the hatch's curved surface, heart pounding at the faltering balance. You lock your toes into the metal flanges and hold the mast, the broken net pole, you repurposed into a rudimentary mast. You angle the sail so the approaching winds will billow it forward. The raft turns gently, the hull tilted to present a broader side to the gusts. The wind fills the sail, puffing the nylon like a chest finally able to breathe. A swell lifts the raft's stern, and for a moment you grip the mast heart, soaring movement, direction, action. The ocean's vastness tightens around you, but at least you have choice. Now stand, adjust, steer. Waves pick up churning whitecaps that crash against the raft's flanks. You steady yourself, shifting weight to maintain trim. The crate feels more secure under your kneeling foot. You press your forehead to your forearm, breathing deep, tasting salt and rain. You welcome the storm's bellow. Its energy surges through the sail, through the lines, through your veins. You are alive, alive in each thunderclap and every spray of spray. The wind roars louder, and the waves submit to the storm's crescendo. You lift your head and let the raindrops baptize you cold embers, tracing your sunburn. Each drop is a small absolution. You pull the sail taut, edging the mast until the raft surges forward. You clutch the hatch with one hand, adjust the sheet with the other. The sail snaps, and the raft leaps onto a wave crest hull, skipping over water like a stone. For the first time in 42 days, you feel direction under your feet. You scream against the wind, no words, just the primal roar of a soul awakened from numbness. The raft careens down the face of the wave, splashing through troughs that leave you soaked but exhilarated. You roar again, pumped with adrenaline and focused completely on the carving path before you. Behind you in the distance, the gray band of clouds bends around a darker shape, a vertical line that could be a cliff face or a towering tree. At sea, shapes are deceiving, but you cling to the hope that this storm has carried you closer to land. You urge the sail tauter, lean into the gust, and let the fabric pull you onward. The storm-driven wind whips your hair into a frenzy, pressing rain into your cheeks. The mirror and flare pen rattle in the crate, but those tools wait. Now you ride the storm as best you can, heart pounding in rhythm with wind and wave. You are wide awake, every nerve alive, to the taste of wind and spray. As the raft slides again toward that mysterious silhouette, you realize how far you've come, how far you will go. Memories of loved ones still tug at your heart, but they no longer crush you, they propel you. You whisper into the wind, I'm coming home, and press your weight forward. The sail snaps again, guiding you toward that dark shape. You lean into the tremor of the raft eyes fixed on that hazy line. It could be salvation, or it could be another mirage. But you don't care. You are no longer passive. You are steering your fate. You ride the storm's tail as it carries you closer to that distant silhouette. But once the wind dies, you'll be back to drifting. Survival demands constant innovation. You lean over the hatch and dig through the crate for nails, thin, rusted shards salvaged from broken planks. They're brittle and rough, but with patient hands you can shape them into hooks. You scoop a handful into your palm and settle on the crate under the shelter of your sail canopy. You align one nail on the mirror's edge and press firmly, using it as an anvil. The nail splits along its grain, and you leverage the shard to carve a gentle curve. The mirror's broken glass is sharp. You protect your fingers with a strip of cloth. With each tap against the hatch's metal rim, tap tap, you bend the nail into a crude hook, its barb jagged but serviceable. You repeat the process with two more nails, yielding three hooks that gleam dull silver in the shifting light. Next, you fashion leaders from fishing line frayed by salt. You cut four equal lengths, tying each to a hook with a sturdy clinch knot you remember from calmer days. The barbs graze your palm, but you cradle them against the crate, grateful for any chance of catching faster prey. You set the hooks aside and lean back, breathing the salt perfumed air, letting the rhythmic sway steady your pulse. With hooks in hand, you feel more armed against the ocean's emptiness. Your gaze drifts to the solar still. You rigged days ago the nylon pouch, drifting beneath the hatch's cooler metal. You pull aside the sail's hem and peer into the pouch. Granular droplets shimmer along its underside. By nightfall, you'll collect a few more precious teaspoons of water, but thirst gnaws now. You resist the urge to tear apart the system for more immediate gain. Discipline is survival. You clench your jaw and turn your attention to fishing. You retrieve the rod and thread the hook, baiting it with a scrap of dried fish from your last catch. The meat clings damp to the hook, sending a familiar tang of brine through your nostrils. You cast the line over the side of the raft, watching the hook and leader vanish into the wavering blue. You hold the rod loosely, eyes narrowing on the tension in the line. Time stretches as you wait, each second a victory of patience. You scan the water's surface, noting schools of small fish darting in the raft's shade. Normally, these fish skirt the edges, wary of predators. Now they swirl around your raft, like moths around a dim lamp. You imagine how the hooks will snatch the curious stragglers. A twitch in the line snaps you to attention. You grip the rod heart, hammering, and reel in fast, gentle at first, to test the fish's weight, then with strength, born of weeks of survival. The line pops taut, and you clamp your other hand on the rod's base. You whittle the reel handle with calloused fingers, winding until the fish's silver flank breaks the surface. You lift it free, rainbows of light dancing off its scales. You dispatch the snapper quickly, respecting its gift. You fillet it with the shard knife, each slice swift and precise, mindful of your own hunger. You rinse the fillet in seawater in your metal pot, shake off excess salt, and skewer it on a sharpened twig from the sail's broken net pole. You position it over the tiny burner, waiting as a plume of smoke spirals skyward. While the fish cooks, you turn back to your hooks and leaders. You examine each trimming frayed line and doubling knots where necessary. You reinforce the clinches with tiny wraps of thread from your shirt, soaking them to test their strength. The wind bounces off the rafters of clouds, above now thin and drifting, imparting a gentle breeze that ripples the raft's sails. Your fish sizzles, and you inhale its aroma and anchor to simpler times. When flames kiss the flesh, you drop the bundle into the pot to collect drippings, then transfer it to a cloth lined patch on the hatch. You tear off chunks and eat with measured bites, each morsel a sacred offering. Protein bolsters your strength. The fat lubricates your joints, stiff from constant tension. You swallow the last bite and lick residual flakes from your fingertips, savoring that fleeting banquet. With hunger tamed, you stand and stretch, backbone cracking in protest. You collect your new hooks and leaders and venture to the raft's edge. You secure the rod in a Y-shaped brace made from two oar fragments, then lower each hook in turn. You tie them in a staggered drop line, liking three hooks at different depths: 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. Predators lurk deeper. You hedge your bets across the water column. You step back watching the drop line drift. Your mind shifts to water collection. You unsling the jerry can and pour its remaining liquid into the salad bowl of your solar stills collection vessel, cautioning yourself to save the last sip for urgent need. You lift the solar stills nylon pouch and wring it. Half a teaspoon drips from its tip, falling into the jerry can below. You pour the jerry can into a small cup and sip, savoring the fresh taste. Your body hums with gratitude. Water and food, the twin pillars of life, both now within your control. Though your makeshift sail steers you slowly, you tip the mast and catch a minor current, a diagonal drift toward a promise of land. You watch the needle of your internal compass swing westward, guiding you across this watery wilderness. You adjust the sail's sheet and trim out the slack. The raft heels gently the crate's weight, providing stern ballast. Time dissolves into a pattern of tasks. Tend the still, check the drop line secure, drifting debris, adjust sail. Each rotation of effort knits another thread of momentum. The sun slides across the sky, and sweat beads beneath your headband. You unclipped one of the cloth strips hours ago. Now you tie it around your torso, compressing sunburned skin to dull the sting. You press your teeth against a ragged scrap, suppressing a groan. By late afternoon, you feel a tug on the deepest hook, strong, insistent, primal. You jerk the line, adrenaline jolting every fiber. This isn't a small snapper, it's a larger fish pulsing with power. You grip the rod with every ounce of might, reeling furiously, knee braced against the hatch. The line hisses and sings, warping under pressure. You lean back, using your weight to counter the drag sweat, stinging your eyes. The fish fights like the sea itself, each surge a test of your resolve. You whisper encouragement, come on, as the line shortens. Finally, you break the surface and behold a wahoo, its silvery body gleaming with cobalt streaks. You feel a thrill of triumph, but also urgency. A fish this size can feed you for days, but you have to land it. You grab the hooked leader with your free hand, guiding the fish toward the raft. It lunges, splashing and thrashing. You brace its head against the hatch and slide your knife beneath its gill plate, ending its struggle. Heat floods your chest, a mixture of triumph and pity. You drop the fish onto the hatch, pat it beside the crate, and untangle the drop line for reuse. You fillet the wahoo, working quickly as dark clouds gather. You spoon chunks of flesh into your pot, placing them over a flame fueled by a bit of diesel, a controlled flare that crackles to life. The aroma is intoxicating. You tear off chunks and eat as the first raindrops pelt the sail. You press the remaining fillets into a canvas bag and tuck it into the crate for later. The rain intensifies, pounding the sail and pattering on the hatch. Your solar still pouches sway under the wet onslaught, dripping more water into the jerry can. You collect it greedily, tipping the vessel and swallowing the fresh bounty. You press a hand to your chest, feeling heart and hunger both sated. You crawl back atop the hatch, soaking wet but invigorated. The storm's tail is rolling in, as if on cue, but you don't fear it now. You welcomed its energy earlier. You reload your drop line, secure the fishing rod, and reinforce the sail's ridgeline. Each knot you tie is another affirmation you are crafting, not just survival, but progress adrift with purpose. You watch the horizon darken beneath the storm front. You lean against the crate, savoring the taste of fish and water and the empowerment that comes when you shape your own fate. You whisper to the gathering clouds, I know what to do. I'm ready. The ocean responds with a low rumble, as if in agreement. You gather your gear and hunker in your shaded nook, the wind picking up again. Tomorrow you'll wake and do it all over. Tend your still, check your lines, adjust your sail. But for now, you rest muscles humming with exhaustion and triumph. You're still here, still learning, still surviving. Dawn breaks against a leaden sky, the storm's tail still rumbling on the fringes of your makeshift raft. Groggy limbs protest as you roll off the hatch and onto the buoyant cradle. Your muscles are sore from yesterday's battle with the wahoo, but hunger and thirst are sated for now, luxuries you've learned to appreciate. You stretch cracking vertebrae that have calcified under stress and sling your wet shirt over your shoulder to dry in a gusty breeze. You dip bottled water into your mouth, savoring its cold clarity, then tuck the flask back into the crate's side pocket. The fused gout of salt and diesel on your palms peels away in the breeze. You rub your hands together, testing circulation. Nothing warms faster than the fire of hope today. Might be the day your reflection shifts from mirage to rescue. You haul yourself to the mast, adjusting sail and sheet against the shifting wind. The raft heels, and you lean into the curved toes, hooked in the hatch's flanges for footing. You angle the sail to capture the strongest current, and the raft begins to carve through swells with surprising momentum. The motion is addictively purposeful, a counterpoint to weeks of drifting aimlessly. You glance skyward, scanning for signs of rescue. Gulls wheel overhead, their calls ragged from the storm. You lift the mirror and send a bright pulse into the cloud cover, counting flashes 1, 2, 3. No answer yet. You tuck the mirror away and return to the hatch. Your eyes catch a shape far off, a fleeting glint at the crest of a wave. You lean forward, shading your eyes with your hand, and focus. There, a white sail, triangular and true, rising and falling in steady rhythm. Your heart hammers so loud you fear it might crack your ribs. You grip the hatch edge and brace yourself against the surge of adrenaline. The sail disappears behind a swell, and your breath catches. You reel in the dropline hook and cut short the fishing ritual. Tools, water, food, crafted hooks, they're momentarily forgotten. You're an animal fixated on movement, every sense tuned to that phantom rescue. You clamber to your feet, careful of your cracked ribs, and hoist the mirror again. The sail crest looms into view, and you fling the mirror's reflective surface toward it in stuttering pulses. You tip the raft's mast to catch the wind, angling toward the distant sail. The raft responds, edging westward. Your breath comes fast and shallow. Terror mingles with hope. 1, 2, 3 flashes. The white sail yaws into the wind, its crew vaguely complaining of unresponsive rigging. You repeat the flashes 5, 6, 7, hoping they notice the irregular pattern. The sail's angle shifts abruptly, almost imperceptibly. It doesn't tack away. You hold your breath. You shout high and urgent, but your voice dissolves in wind. You wave both arms, coattails flapping like warning flags. The sail stays on course. Perhaps it's seen you. Perhaps. You clutch the hatch rail, knuckles ghost white as the raft surges over a ridge of water. You pump your legs, leaning forward to edge closer. Your makeshift rudder, a broken oar strapped beneath the hatch, fights the current. It's delicate work, too many degrees either way, and you risk losing the angle. The sail draws nearer its spinnaker, fluttering like a lazy gull's wing. You can make out the hull's silhouette, now dark against foam. You watch as it rides a swell sunlight, catching varnished wood. Your pulse ratchets higher. Breathing feels like breathing underwater, difficult, precious. At 30 meters, the sail's crew finally responds. A white-clad hand lifts from the deck palm outward. They wave. Joy surges through you like electricity. You wave back, stumbling but determined. A knot of crew members gathers at the rail binoculars, trained on your tiny raft. Your raft lurches on a crest and you seize the moment. You clutch the flare pen, your parlor trick ready for the grand finale. You twist the wheel and strike the flare to life. A single bright red star blooms at the pen's tip. You hurl it skyward. It arcs in a molten streak, then hisses as it blooms into a flare's bloom, fiery petals against a smoky stem. The crew's cries reach you muffled but unmistakable. They've seen it. Only moments later, you hear an engine's hum, a motor launch deploying from the larger vessel. The sailboat's hull leans as it slows, and then anchors in the raft's vicinity, its keel clanging against the chain in mechanical protest. You watch taut with anticipation as a small boat looses from the davits, a red-capped crewman at the helm. Your raft quivers as the motor launch nears. You climb unsteadily to your feet, arms outstretched, tears mingling with spray. The launch settles beside you. Its crewman peers over the gunwale, eyes wide at your gaunt, salt-crusted face. Hold on. He calls and pitches you an orange life ring. You grasp at leg, scrabbling for purchase on the hatch's metal lip. He loops the line over your body. You shuffle until the ring hooks at your shoulders. Another crewman leans over, grabbing your arms, hauling you toward the launch. You collapse onto its deck ribs, protesting every jolt. They wrap you in a thermal blanket, and the sudden warmth makes you gasp. The motor launch drifts alongside the sailboat, and a ladder lowers. The crewman hoists you up. You clutch his shoulder, careful not to expose your shattered core. You break onto the sailboat's deck, and 19 faces peer down in silent wonder, relief, and awe. A doctor kneels at your side, pressing a thermometer to your neck, murmuring observations you can't comprehend. You're hoisted onto a stretcher and carried below. The motion soothes, lulling you into a haze as the sailboat's salon transforms into a makeshift ward. A warm drink is pressed to your lips, sweeter than ambrosia tasting of safety. You lie back, body trembling, thinking of every choice that led you here, clinging to hatches, crafting hooks, rationing dew, harnessing storms. Your mind drifts to home, to that harbor where your boat once lay. You close your eyes as the doctor wraps your arm in a bandage and presses a damp cloth to your forehead. You've survived 76 days adrift at sea. You awake to the gentle roll of the sailboat's cabin, a far cry from the savage pitch of your raft, and for a moment you believe the ordeal is over. But as the medic checks your vitals and the hum of engines vibrates through your bones, you realize your salvation was built on hope that was kindled long before this moment. Flashbacks of that morning on your raft fragment through your mind, the searing heat, the stalwart crate, and then suddenly a flutter of white wings. It happened on the 17th day when your eyes burned from salt and sunburn and your soul felt as parched as your throat. You'd been scanning the horizon for any sign of change when a flock of gulls cut across the sky, circling low over a floating mat of seaweed. Your makeshift raft rocked gently beneath you, but your heart lurched. Seabirds almost always meant land, or at least thus to something afloat. You scrambled for the signal mirror, wincing as sun-cracked skin protested and angled it toward the birds, sending stuttering pulses of reflected light into the sky. They dipped and wheeled in response, then settled on a drifting tangle of kelp not 10 meters from your raft. You couldn't move fast enough, but you kicked free of the hatch and flopped across the water toward the green mass. Seaweed strands curled around you, brushing your arms, and you lunged for a handful, hauling it aboard with shaking fingers. Beneath the fronds, you found small creatures, barnacles, crustaceans, perhaps tiny crabs and shrimp. You plucked them free, dropping the wriggling catch into your metal pot. That evening, under a trembling sunset, you ignited your tiny burner and boiled seawater for a scant 2 minutes before dumping it over the crustaceans. The shells cracked, revealing pale flesh that you ate gratefully each bite, a reminder that life could spring from the most unlikely places. You counted each morsel, savoring its salt-tinged sweetness, and realized that hope wasn't just a word you could taste it. In the days that followed, you returned again and again to the kelp mat, gathering flakes of dehydrated seaweed to supplement your hardtack biscuits. The kelp dried quickly in the sun, forming brittle sheets You chewed slowly. Its subtle umami flavor reminded you of salads at home, a fleeting luxury that grounded your spirit. With each foraging excursion, you felt your sense of agency return. You rigged a pulley from fishing line and a broken carabiner you'd scavenged, securing it to the mast so you could reel in clumps of seaweed farther from the raft. You balanced on the hatch's flanges, legs, hooked under brackets, and guided the kelp aboard with patient tugs. Your hands learned the patterns of weeds and drift differentiating edible strands from inedible debris. Every haul was a small ecological study, and with knowledge came confidence. As your diet diversified, seaweed flakes with dehydrated fish, jerky, crustaceans boiled, then crisped on the burner, the physical toll lessened. Your energy returned bit by bit, and with it a spark of mental clarity. You found yourself humming old tunes quietly while you worked rhythms that echoed calmer days. At night, you sketched shapes in the condensation beads that pooled in your still collecting pouch, tracing constellations, mapping days past. These rituals anchored you to reality. One afternoon, you noticed the seabirds gathering again, but this time their pattern changed. They perched on tufts of floating debris that formed a loose chain. You followed this natural breadcrumb trail, steering your raft by sail toward the debris field. You snagged a length of rope and a broken paddle, adding secured beams to your raft's framework. Each scavenge added stability, a testament to your evolving ingenuity. It was as if the sea itself was conspiring to sustain you. You learned to read wind patterns for weather, to anticipate when currents shifted direction. You used the knife's broken tip to carve markers into the hatch tally marks for days survived in arrows, for prevailing wind shifts. A crude compass rose to orient yourself. Your makeshift sea chart became an extension of your mind, a way to impose order on the ocean's chaos. With each bird sighting each new resource scavenged, your despair retreated. You no longer saw isolation as an endless void, but as a challenge with solutions waiting to be uncovered. When shortages recurred, you faced them not with panic, but with problem solving zeal. How to trap rainwater with higher yield, how to cook fish with fuel rationed to 3 minutes of flame. Each small triumph created momentum, a feedback loop of confidence. On the 35th day, you realized you weren't merely surviving, you were thriving within constraints. Your body, though scarred and weak, had adapted. Your mind, though wearied, had sharpened. You could anticipate a storm's edge by bark striations on wind-ripped debris, sense thermals by gull behavior, coax water from the air with new sail configurations. The raft had become an ecosystem of sustainable cycles, water, food, shelter, signaling each feeding the next. Then came the morning you spotted a freighter's distant silhouette, a promise that coursed through your veins like adrenaline. You'd first glimpsed a sail on day 10 only to watch it recede, a cruel tease. But this time you were ready. You polished the mirror, stocked the flare pen, prepared a rationed bottle of water to toast the moment. When the freighter's hull rose above the horizon, you angled your makeshift mast and propelled the raft with wind and current, signaling with a sequence of flashes that spoke your desperation and hope. They saw you. The motor launch that approached did not merely rescue a drifting castaway, it validated every choice, every stitch and nail and ration. When they hoisted you aboard, you clutched your makeshift sea chart, the raft's mast, the solar still's frame, all artifacts of your resolve. The crew watched rapt as you demonstrated how foraging seabirds had guided you and how the kelp mat had fed you. Their respect was a salve more potent than any medicine. Now, as the doctor buoys you with warm broth and clean blankets, you understand that hope rekindled is not a single moment, but a continuous arc of discovery and determination. The sea offered despair as surely as it offered salvation, and you chose to follow it as breadcrumbs, seabirds, seaweed, shifting currents, human ingenuity. Today you rest aboard this vessel, but tomorrow you will stand again buoyed by the knowledge that within desolation lies the fuel for hope. You awaken to the gentle sway of the cabin and the murmur of sailors moving about overhead. Below decks, the hum of the freighter's engines is a soft lullaby compared to the roar of open ocean. You sit up on the bunk muscles sore, but mind alight with reflection. Today, you allow yourself a moment to absorb the magnitude of your rescue and to acknowledge how far you have traveled, both physically and mentally, in 76 days. Descending to the deck, you step onto solid wood planks, luxurious terrain, greeting blistered feet. The sun glints off polished railings, and you feel a brief, dizzying disorientation. You blink against the brightness, remembering the sun's wrath on the raft. A crew member offers you coffee, its rich aroma swirling in your nostrils. You cradle the steaming mug in both hands, savoring warmth without rationed sips. The first sip floods your veins with caffeine and comfort a symphony compared to seawater drips. As you stroll the deck, crew members approach eager to hear your story. You pause by the rail looking out at the endless expanse you've known so well. A thin line of land teases the horizon, distant but tangible. You trace it with your eyes, imagining walking on solid ground without resistance. A journalist's recorder is pressed into your hand, and you share the highlights. The storm that capsized your vessel, the makeshift raft, the solar still, the seabird's guidance. You describe fashioning hooks from nails and scavenging crustaceans from kelp mats, details that elicit gasps of admiration. You emphasize the importance of mental fortitude, how a single hallucination of home could become either a path to salvation or a trap into despair. You have to stay grounded, you tell them, tone steady. Find the real signals: birds, debris, wind. Don't chase mirages. Later, you retreat to the ship's infirmary, where the doctor examines sunburned skin and tests your strength. He smiles at your resilience and prescribes rest fluids and protein. A warm broth is prepared richer than any seaweed soup you brewed, and you drink it gratefully. Each spoonful feels like an apology from the world, a promise that normal life still holds pleasure. As the freighter nears port, you stand at the bow under a sky that feels both familiar and alien. Salt wind tangles your hair, but the air tastes different, less brine, more promise. You think of loved ones waiting their relief, their questions, their embrace. You clutch the recorder in one hand, the mug in the other, and smile. Later, as you prepare to disembark, You're handed a letter from the ship's captain. Inside a line, scrawled in ink, reads, "Your will is stronger than the sea." You tuck the note into your shirt, letting its folds nestle against your heart. Stepping onto the dock, you feel gravity's embrace a sensation you hadn't realized you missed. The world hums with engines, horns, footsteps, life. Journalists and well-wishers swirl around, but your focus narrows to one figure in the crowd, your partner eyes shining with tears. You break into a run, limping, but unstoppable, and crash into an embrace that melts weeks of salt and fear. You hold each other tight, and for the first time in 2.5 months, you feel truly safe. You awaken before dawn on the 75th morning, the sky still a bruise of indigo above the endless expanse. Your body aches in places you didn't know could hurt anymore, but a new energy thrums through you as you scan the horizon. Today feels different. The wind shifts from a whisper to a confident gust, and the waves carry a promise in their rhythm. You glance at your tally marks carved into the hatch, 75 days. You inhale, tasting salt and hope. The sun's first light bleeds over the eastern swell, painting the sea in molten gold. You squint toward the far edge of the world, where sky meets water in a single, hazy line. For days, even weeks, you've seen nothing but empty blue. Now, on the crest of a small, steady wave, a dark shape materializes, a silhouette that does not belong. Your breath hitches, heart drumming in your ears so loudly you feel it in your throat. You rub your eyes, certain it's another mirage, a cruel trick played by dehydration. But when you open them, the shape remains the massive hull of a freighter, its bow rising and falling like a giant's chest. Time fractures. You feel seconds stretch to minutes, each heartbeat amplified. Your mind races through possibilities. What if you're wrong? What if the shape dissolves like mist? You clamp both hands on the hatch's edge, knuckles white. The freighter's silhouette clarifies stacked containers, a towering superstructure aft, and an array of lights blinking like distant stars even in the dawn. You stare, frozen in disbelief and elation. Your body surges with adrenaline. You scramble for the signal mirror, heart pounding so fiercely you think it will burst free. The mirror's cracked surface glitters in your hand, and you scramble out of your shaded nook, shifting your weight to the mast's base. Your legs tremble but hold you. You position the mirror just so, catching the sun's first ray. You angle it toward the freighter, flashing 1, 2, 3 rapid pulses, slicing across the water's mirror-like surface. Your breath comes in shallow gasps. Behind you, the sail threatens to collapse, but you ignore it. You fling your arm again, 4, 5, 6, wishing the flashes would ripple across the freighter's deck. Every flicker of the sun's reflection feels like a plea. Notice me. I'm here. The freighter's silhouette, which had drifted lazily on the swell, now seems to veer slightly toward you. Your pulse hammers so loud you swear the sea can hear it. You reach back into the crate and retrieve the flare pen, marveling that it still holds its fizz after weeks of jostling and salt spray. You strike the wheel once, no spark. You curse under your breath, wipe the striker wheel on your sleeve and try again. A tiny spark ignites, then flares bright as fire. You raise it high, kneeling on the hatch so your shoulders clear the crates and lines. You thrust the flare into the sky, a brief but brilliant cluster of red petals blooming above your head. The smoke cloud trails behind the light, and you shout a raw over here that cracks like thunder in the still morning air. Behind you, the wind catches the sail billowing it taut, as if bearing witness to your triumph. You plant your feet and hold the flare steady, the heat scorching your fingers. You watch the freighter's silhouette grow, the bow dropping into troughs, then rising above crests. You see a flash of white on its deck. Perhaps the crew is gathering at the rail. You grip the flare tighter, willing it to last longer, your throat raw from the shout. Moments stretch. You extinguish the flare, its petals spent, and let it tumble into the crate. Your lungs burn with cold morning air, but you taste victory. You feel the freighter's course shift as it closes the distance, its massive form moving with deliberate intent. The wake behind it churns into a V that widens as the ship approaches, and you estimate it gains ground at a rate too swift to be coincidence. Your raft, patched and battered though it is, sails steadily on the freighter's bow wave. You lean forward, toes gripping the hatch's flanges, and watch as the crew deploys a distant motor launch. You hear the faint staccato of its engine even before you see the dime-sized craft break from the freighter's side. Your heart surges again this time with hammered relief. For a fleeting moment, you allow yourself to grin teeth bared in shock and triumph. The roar of the ocean fades into background noise. All you can perceive is the sight of rescue drawing nearer. A knot of crew members leans over the freighter's rail fists, waving binoculars, tracking your every move. You wave both arms, coattails snapping like flags in a siege. You step back mindful of your cracked ribs and drop to one knee, raising the mirror again to flash at the launch now, a speck growing larger on the horizon. The morning sun gilds the scene in soft gold, illuminating your salt-crusted face and sunburned shoulders. The motor launch's outline evolves from abstraction to clarity, its bow carving through white water, its outboard motor rumbling a promise. You see the pilot shift his course, zigzagging toward you, jostling the little craft like a child kicking at a pontoon. Your breath catches as the launch's prow lifts and lowers in a swale. The distance between you shrinks rapidly. You crunch your toes into the hatch and survey your raft's interior for any last-minute adjustments. Nothing but the flare pen, the mirror, your still, and the crate of supplies. Each item represents a piece of your survival tapestry. You nod to yourself, silent gratitude for the scars that taught you to endure. The launch is now close enough for you to make out the pilot's face, lined with salt, and age eyes sharp with concern. You lean forward and wave one last time, feeling your voice catch in your throat. The roar of the engine momentarily drowns out your heartbeat. Then you're on your feet, arms outstretched, tears stinging your eyes. With a tilt and a roll, the launch's side bumps gently against your raft. A crew member leans over and stretches a hand toward you. You grasp at fingertips slick with salt and pull yourself aboard. Once inside, you collapse onto the bench limbs, too weak to do anything but sink into motion. The crew member wraps you in a blanket, and you shiver despite the warmth. You hear the launch's engine wind down as it turns to meet the freighter's side. In that instant, floating between watercraft, you feel the full weight of your journey. You survived 75 nights under stars and storms. You tamed the sun and sea. You battled your own mind. And now here you are, rescued at last. Above you, the freighter's hull looms a steel mountain against the dawn. The motor launch nudges its rail, and a rope ladder descends a final threshold between you and solid ground. You look up at the horizon one last time, the endless sea stretching behind you, and whisper, "Thank you." Then you climb the ladder, each rung a farewell to isolation, each breath a return to life beyond the raft. When your boot touches the deck, the world tilts beneath you. The crew's applause washes over you, muffled by the roar of the freighter's engines. You steady yourself with one hand on the rail, eyes shining with tears and triumph. A medic approaches, clipboard in hand, and you realize that rescue is only the beginning. You stand on the ladder's lowest rung, the metal cold and reassuring beneath your palms. The roar of the freighter's engines hums through the rope lines, grounding you in reality. One boot touches the wooden deck, solid and unyielding, after 76 days of pitching flour sacks of hatch and rolling metal. You pause, letting gravity settle you upright. The deck's movement is gentle, a familiar sway compared to the violent surges your raft delivered. You inhale, filling your lungs with the clean smell of fuel salt and sweat, no longer a chemical slurry of brine alone. Hands reach out to steady you, stout grips in heavy gloves. Crew members guide you toward the bulkhead, their eyes warm with relief. You offer a shaky nod and let yourself be led. Every step feels surreal. Your legs remember only unstable balance, but now they adapt to firm ground with curious ease. As you walk, the deck vibrates underfoot, a low thrum that feels like a heartbeat, steady and kind. You come to a halt by the railing overlooking the endless sea you've come to know intimately. The waves below break white against the freighter's steel hull, but you barely notice them. You focus on the cabin's windows, reflecting your own battered silhouette back at you. You press your fingers to the glass, smudged, sunburned fingertips that traced hatch edges and patchwork sails. Now they feel the cool smoothness of tempered glass, a barrier between you and the memory of isolation. A crew member drapes a thick blanket over your shoulders, its wool coarse but comforting. You pull it tight, letting its warmth seep into your bones. You glance down to see your own hands calloused, cut, stained by diesel and seawater. You flex them, marveling at how they've become tools of creation, crafting hooks, tying lines, rigging sails. Without those hands, you would never have touched solid ground again. Behind you, voices murmur plans to document your condition, to provide food and water, to arrange medical evaluations. You listen grateful, but overwhelmed by the sudden rush of activity. You lean against the railing, head bowed, and allow a single tear to trace through salt and grime. It's a tear of release, proof that your mind still feels, still processes, still dares to hope. A journalist approaches, recorder in hand, and asks how it feels to finally stand on a ship rather than cling to debris. You blink, savoring the sensation beneath your boots. The slight spring of deck planks, the steadiness underfoot. You answer quietly, voice raspy but clear. It feels like waking from a fever dream. You pause, choosing your words. The sea gave me survival, but solid ground gives me life. You turn away from the reporter and scan the crew around you, seasoned sailors in oilskins, the freighter's captain in crisp whites, medics carrying first aid kits. Their faces are a tapestry of awe and relief gratitude, writ large in their eyes. You meet the captain's gaze and he offers a firm nod and a salute. You return the salute instinctively, an echo of your naval past, even though you're a civilian fisherman. Recognition passes between you, respect for the sea's power and for the will needed to endure it. A crewman gestures toward a ladder leading below deck. Come on, let's get you out of this wind, he says. You follow, stepping lightly down into the saloon where a cot awaits. Warm lights flicker overhead, revealing fresh water bottles on a table and bowls of fruit that look impossibly bright: oranges, apples, bananas. You crouch to inspect them, the colors vivid against the stainless steel, and pick up a banana. You peel it slowly, knife still tucked into your belt, and take a bite. Sweetness floods your mouth, sugar and moisture combining in a way you forgot possible. You close your eyes, letting the taste wash away weeks of salt and grit. Behind you, footsteps approach. The ship's doctor stands now, clipboard in hand, and smiles gently. How are you feeling? She asks. You shrug, banana half eaten. Like I could sleep. Standing, you reply, voice dry with a chuckle. She nods and offers a glass of water. You take it, lifting it to your cracked lips, and swallow deeply. The cool water scours your throat, leaving only gratitude in its wake. She examines your scars, sunburns that blistered lacerations from tangled debris, nails that sliced your palms, and murmurs professional concerns. You nod, listening. You ask only one question: how far from land are we? She checks her tablet and replies, about 12 hours by sea. Will slow for you. You nod, smiling tightly. The idea of walking on firm earth within half a day feels like a promise fulfilled. Later, you make your way to a window overlooking the rail. You wrap the blanket tighter against a fresh gust of wind sweeping through the hatch. The horizon is still endless, but now it's framed by the promise of port lights, docks, roads, people. You think of your partner, waiting of their tears, turning to relief of the day when you step onto that familiar dock and tell the story in full. You close your eyes and press your forehead to the glass, memorizing the solid vibration beneath your feet. You murmur to yourself, I am here. I am homebound. A soft chime from a nearby console signals the captain's request to return to the bridge. You straighten and take one last look at the open sea, your crucible, your teacher, your adversary. You whisper, thank you, letting the word ride on the wind through the ship's porthole. As you step forward to climb the ladder back to the deck, you feel each rung as a milestone. 14th day, mirages, scorching sun, nights of terror, birds of hope, the final dawn. Each rung echoes a memory of survival's mechanics. You ascend blanket, trailing behind you like a small flag of triumph. Reaching the deck, you stand tall under the mid-morning sun, no longer a figure of desperation, but of resilience and renewal. Crew members salute and smile, and you return the gesture with genuine pride. Under your boots, the deck creaks a farewell hymn to the raft that bore you. Above you, the freighter's superstructure towers a guardian that delivered you from the sea's indifferent embrace. You step forward, ready to face solid ground once again. You stand on solid ground as the freighter eases into the harbor, diesel engines transitioning from a hum to a gentle purr. The ship's horn sounds a low salute, and you feel every vibration beneath your boots as if the world itself is welcoming you back. You steady yourself on the rail blanket, draped like a cape around your shoulders, and watch the shoreline grow nearer, warehouses, cranes, and a ribbon of lights blinking along the docks. Each structure looks impossibly large after months of empty horizon, yet you feel small in the best possible way, humble before the land that cradled you at birth. Crew members bustle around you, guiding lines to bollards and raising gangways with practiced efficiency. You walk slowly down the companionway, each step measured to honor the journey behind you. Below deck, the doctor hands you a fresh shirt and soft trousers. The fabric feels heaven sent against skin still tender from sunburn. You dress swapping salt crusted layers for clean cloth and tug at the elastic waistband. The sensation of clothing not soaked in brine elicits a quiet gasp. When you emerge on deck again, the gangway lowers with a clank that echoes across the water. At the bottom, a line of faces, family, friends, journalists, all await. Your partner stands front and center, eyes bright and wide. Their mouth opens, no words forming, and you step forward, every muscle pulsing with anticipation. You descend the gangway one rung at a time, scanning each face, offering nods of recognition. The sun catches the tear that slips down your partner's cheek, and your heart clicks into place. At the bottom, you embrace them, pressing foreheads together. Their arms circle you, holding you upright, as if they fear you might drift away again. You inhale their scent, fresh laundry shampoo home, and a flood of relief washes through your chest. You whisper, "I'm here," even though they already know. Your voice trembles with gratitude and disbelief. Family members crowd forward, enveloping you in warmth, a chorus of laughter, tears, and questions. You meet each gaze with a smile that conveys more than words ever could. You feel each hug as a reclaiming of your place in the world, each shared heartbeat, a reminder that you belong. Journalists hover at a respectful distance, cameras capturing every moment, but you see only the circle of loved ones. After the embraces, you step back onto the dock boots, crunching on gravel. The city air, laced with diesel and distant traffic, is both alien and intoxicating. You close your eyes briefly, storing the memory of solid earth beneath you. You open them to find your partner offering a set of keys and a crumpled envelope. They press them into your hand. "Our home," they say simply. You unfold the envelope to reveal a handwritten map of familiar streets leading to a small cottage by a calm river. You run your thumb over the paper, tracing the route. The map is a promise, a place where you can sleep without a hatch beneath you, where the only navigation needed is turning a key in a lock. You and your partner walk toward a waiting car, its headlights like open arms against the rising sun. You slide into the passenger seat blanket, still around your shoulders, and buckle in. The engine starts, and as the car pulls away, the freighter's silhouette recedes in your rearview mirror. For a moment, you nearly turn back, wanting to stare at the ship that carried you through the vastest trial of your life. But then you look ahead at the road unwinding and smile. You lean your head back, letting the seat cradle you, and watch the city blur by. You feel a soft ache in your chest, a mix of loss for the solitude you conquered and excitement for the community you're returning to. The road curves lined with trees that rustle in a breeze you can finally feel against your face. You close your eyes, savoring the sensation of motion without the boat's sway of wind, without salt bite. Your partner reaches over and squeezes your hand. You interlace fingers and bring the map to your lips, kissing the paper. You whisper, home, and exhale. The car carries you onward, wheels spinning toward new mornings and quiet nights free of storms. Slow now. Breathe deep and let each exhale carry away the salt and fear. The engine's hum fades into a gentle background lullaby, a soft vibration that resonates in your chest rather than rattling your bones. Your heart beats in long, steady strokes like oars cutting through calm water. You feel the tension in your shoulders soften, each muscle unclenching from its months-long vigil. Imagine the map on your lap unfolding into a field of lavender beneath a pastel sunset. The scent drifts through your mind, calming as a mother's whisper. Your partner's hand in yours is warm and solid. You squeeze gently, savoring the connection. Every pore welcomes the quiet air that fills your lungs, air untainted by salt or storm. Ahead, the road widens into familiarity lanes of oak and elm, shading a path to porch swings and kitchen lights. You envision slipping off your shoes at the threshold toes, pressing into soft rug rather than frayed ropes. The door opens with a gentle click, revealing walls lined with frames, capturing laughter gatherings, quiet mornings. You step across that threshold and feel the door close behind you like a tender sigh. In this safe place, you allow the tears you held at sea to flow freely, tears of relief, gratitude, and awe at your own resilience. You let your breath deepen each inhale, gathering memory and hope, each exhale releasing shadows of doubt. The day's golden light filters through windows, painting patterns on hardwood floors, inviting you to sit, to rest, to simply be. Now settle into bed where pillows cradle you. The sheet whispers against your skin, and the night hums a soft melody. You track constellations through a window, but they feel different here, familiar friends rather than distant strangers. You let your mind drift through the journey. The storm's roar, the hatch's cold grip, the mirror's spark, the seabird's flock, the final flare's bloom. Each memory coalesces into a single thread of survival weaving through your soul. You close your eyes and whisper to the night, I'm here. I'm home. The world hums back in quiet harmony. Your heartbeat settles into a gentle tide, lapping against the shores of tomorrow's promise. And as sleep carries you forward, you drift on soft waves of peace, cradled by love and the knowledge that you survived and now you thrive.